To introduce Dr. Fansler, I'm going to read it off because there's so many things to say about him that I don't want to miss anything. But he is the director of studies in music business at Dallas Baptist University, and in my humble opinion, is one of the cutting-edge programs in the country when it comes to the music business as it is in the 21st century. Hey. The program has been going on since 2002. It has 25 majors, and today, 13 years after its inception, the program supports more than 200 majors. So Terry has a bachelor's degree in vocal performance and a master's degree in PhD in musicology from the University of North Texas. While in graduate school, he had the good fortune to be mentored by an outstanding entrepreneur who taught him how to take an idea and turn it into a business. And that's what it's all about today. After completing his PhD, Terry combined his musical skills and knowledge with his entrepreneurial skills and knowledge, and created a unique music show that he performed full-time throughout the U.S. and Canada for 13 years. So he not only has the PhD part, he has the practical part of doing it on the road. As director of DBU's music business degrees, he teaches courses in music history, including the history of commercial music, introduction to the music business, and his favorite course, the musician as entrepreneur. So here he is tonight to talk with us about the dramatic changes, and they are very dramatic, in the music industry and a new way to develop your career as a songwriter and musician. So please welcome Terry Fansler.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back with you guys. It was fun to see some of you guys. It's been a number of years since I've been here, but it's good to see you, and I see lots of new people here now as well. When you heard in the introduction, what happened to me is I finished my education and I began teaching, and I absolutely hated it. And the reason I hated it was I was too green to do it. I was right out of school. I was intimidated by the whole thing. And so I just decided, well, what do I want to do? And I love performing. I was a musician. I'd performed all my life. And like you heard, I'd been in another business and been mentored by a great entrepreneur who taught me how to take an idea and turn it into a business. And I thought, I wonder if it's possible to take a music career and turn that into a business and run it yourself. And so that's what I thought. I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And everybody told me when I started, they said, well, you need a record label behind you. You need management. You're going to need touring, all this thing. I didn't have any of that. But what I did know was the skills of entrepreneurship. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. Things really have changed, and I think it's actually a perfect change for all of us. So let me set this up for you by talking about how things have been or were before the turn of the 21st century and how they are now. And I want you to think with me about this. Before the 21st century, the way the music industry has always worked is that an artist, and this would include singer-songwriters as well, would do whatever they needed to do to be signed by a record label. That was the key. If you didn't have that, if you were on your own, it was very difficult. And that's why people told me, you're going to have a record label behind you. Because the labels had the money to do four things that individuals couldn't do. They had the money to make recordings, which back then was a very expensive process. They had the money to promote the recordings because they had access to TV networks, radio networks, things like that. They had the money to manufacture recordings. Of course, these are back in the days of CDs. And if you think about it, if you were going to have a national career, you had to have CDs all over the country, in music stores or in record stores all over the country. And they had the money to distribute that. They manufactured the CDs, then they had the pipelines, the distribution pipelines, to get them into the stores. And that's how they created stars out of musicians. If you were a songwriter and you didn't perform, then you needed to publish your original songs with well-connected publishers who could exploit them to artists, to film, to TV and radio, all of these other outlets. So it was pretty much a sewed-up deal. You had to be a part of this large organization. Now I want you to think about how things are now and how much they've changed. Since the year 2000, the record labels, which were all powerful, have lost billions of dollars annually since the year 2000 due to file sharing and international record piracy. And this is because of technology. The technology basically moving from analog to digital recordings allowed this to happen. This same technology has allowed artists and songwriters now to do everything the record labels did in the past. Think about this, with recording, those expensive records of the past can be made very inexpensively now in home studios, and that's the result of technology. Promotion, individual artists today still do not have the connections to book themselves on major TV shows or maybe to get written up in magazines, newspapers, that sort of thing. But what they do have is access to the world of social media, which is actually much more effective than the traditional media outlets. And of course that's on the internet at no cost to the artist or to the songwriter. Manufacturing is one of the most interesting things to me when you think about it. If you think about downloading, we're now in the business of downloading, this eliminates the need to manufacture or duplicate recorded music, because every time the song is downloaded, it self-replicates. Basically, it manufactures and duplicates itself instantly at no cost to the artist. And then the final thing, distribution. The major labels had locked up distribution. When distribution went to the internet, it was open to everybody. If you think about it now, once that CD duplicates itself, it is instantly delivered or distributed to the buyer at no additional cost to the artist. So it's a completely different world now, and these changes now make it possible for anyone to develop a career themselves without depending on the music industry to do it for them. And that's a good thing. Some of the areas of the music industry are in fine shape, some of them are not. So what I did was do it myself. And so that's what I teach my students to do, and what I'd like to do tonight is to talk with you guys about some ideas of maybe creating your own music business yourself. Let me talk to you about 7 ideas to develop a music career as what I call a music entrepreneur. The first idea is begin to think of yourself as a business, because you are. And as a business is built in a step-by-step fashion, a little bit at a time, moving upward. Now, a lot of people today are trying to win their careers like winning the lottery. You know, like appearing. They want to get on The Voice. They want to get on. On any program they can get on. Do you guys remember Neely Reynolds? Some of you all were here. Okay, you all remember Neely. Neely and I were talking about this, and I don't know if you know his story, but back in 1974, Neely told me that he auditioned for their ABC Paramount, or ABC Network really, did a national contest, and the contest was called In Search of the Singing Cowboy. And they thought this would be a great idea. This was kind of the first American Idol, really. It was sort of the early attempt at that. So Neely told me there were 5,000 people that auditioned, and he was one of them. And they kept eliminating people, and the final 3 appeared on TV. Neely was one of those 3. And they appeared on TV, and people called in to vote for them. And Neely won. I don't know if you all know that or not, but he won. He was the singing cowboy. And so here's what he won. He got a record deal with ABC Paramount. They told him they would manage his career. They told him they would provide touring, everything that he needed. So he told me, he said, so what I did, I was in Los Angeles. This took place in LA. I got an apartment. And he said, I sat by the phone and waited for him to call to get this started. And he said they did do a few things. You know, they got me on a few things. But he said I had been there a month or so. And he said one day the phone rang, and they said, we've been really thinking about this very hard, and we've come to the realization that we don't think the singing cowboy is a good idea. So we're not going to go through with the rest of the deal. We're not going to record you. We're not going to manage it. We're not going to do anything. So Neely told me, he said, 3 months after I was named the singing cowboy, I was back in Fort Worth, Texas, working at a 7-Eleven. And the reason is he said, I didn't know the very things that you talk about. He said, if I had known this, I could have taken that singing cowboy thing and really made a lot out of that and built my own career. But I was waiting for them to do it, and they didn't do it. So that's what I'm saying, is consider it a business. Don't try to win anything or do that. Consider it a business and build it that way. Secondly, as a business, understand that your financial rewards will always match your service to people. You guys probably know the speaker, who the speaker Zig Ziglar is. You've heard that name. Well, he was always known for taking these concepts and putting them in very clever phrases. And Zig, on this one, Zig said, you can get everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. That's the idea. And so what I'm telling you, as songwriters, I know we have this temptation that we want to write what we want to write, what's in our hearts we want to write. But what I'm suggesting to you is that instead of focusing it on you, turn that thing around and focus on your audience. And begin to think, what do they need to hear or what do they want to hear? And if you can write songs that people either need or want, they will pay your performance fees and they will buy your products. I guarantee you they will support you if you serve them. So think about that. Every business knows this. I think musicians don't know this, and they should. Third thing I would tell you is when it comes to market yourself using a bullseye approach versus a shotgun approach. And let me tell you, my students are great at this. I remember this happened several years ago. One of my students said over spring break he had a band and they had hooked up with a manager, and the manager was putting them on the road on tour during spring break. And he said, we're hitting 7 cities. We did a show in Dallas, then we're going to do one in Houston, we're going to do one in Phoenix, in San Diego, and in Los Angeles. And I thought to myself, and all you're going to get out of this is a tour of the country. It's not going to help your music career at all, because those people in those cities are not going to communicate talking about you. They won't even remember you. So if you'll do this like a bullseye, where you are the business, you start in the center of the bullseye, and you begin to develop a fan base there. You perform. We're right here in Dallas. Perform in Dallas. Get out and perform.